Hello everybody, today's video we're talking about the top 5 causes of anxiety for seniors and what it is that we might be able to do about it. So my name is Dawn Dickinson and the channel is Reflections and Insights for Life Over 55. If you enjoyed the video, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button and the like button because I post videos every single week about topics that are helpful to seniors. So I'm going to dive right into it, and probably the first thing that I notice for people who are older is they get this kind of aimlessness, this lack of purpose, lack of goal, like wanderlust because they've gotten older. And two things can happen. It could be like once you've retired and now you used to have goals, you used to have business goals, career goals, job goals, but now that you're retired, you've kind of lost your sense of purpose. Or other things is when you get older, maybe you haven't retired yet, but you've met a lot of your career goals. You're not looking to climb the corporate ladder anymore. You're just kind of waiting until retirement. You've made a lot of your financial goals. You have your own home. So you no longer have a goal and you feel a little bit aimless and wandering, and that actually causes a lot of anxiety and stress. Now, I have a quote from one of my favorite old-time authors. I think it was Zig Ziglar that said this, that success is defined as progress towards a worthy goal. And it doesn't have to be a grand goal. It could just be a worthy goal. So that's why it's important as we age to come up with goals for ourselves. And some examples I'm going to give you is a few years ago, actually for about a decade, I belonged to an art club, and there were a lot of I was actually one of the oldest people in the art club, and a lot of the older ladies had been retired, and they had goals like, okay, like every year or so we might have like a little contest, the art show, where you'd have categories for contests. So your goal might be, I'm going to place in 1 to 3rd place in one of my pieces for the art contest. Or we would have a fundraiser. So your goal might be, I'm going to create 3 pieces of art to contribute to the art fundraiser this year. Or maybe a good goal would be, I want to be in a relationship. I want to get into a committed relationship in the next couple of years. So setting a goal, even though it's not as lofty as when we were young, where your goal would be, I'm going to be, director of the Southwest region by the time I'm 50 or something like that. Your goals don't have to be as lofty now as when we were young, but setting a worthy goal and making progress towards that goal is very good for reducing stress and anxiety, and again, good for our overall well-being. Okay, a second huge contributor to anxiety and stress for older people would be when you're trying to control what your kids do, what your spouse does, what your siblings do. Whenever you try to control other people, it's not something that you should actually be doing. Now, I know we all want the best for our children, but at some point we have to let them be, let them find their own way in the world and stop trying to get them to do what we want them to do. I'm going to give you a couple examples for this from my own life. One is my own child, right? My daughter is actually, she's graduating from the University of Arizona in about 2 weeks with the neurology degree, and I can't be prouder of her. But there are a couple of things that I'm going to use her for an example. She'll be like, Mom, but it's true. The first thing is she went to college at the University of Arizona, which is a rival school for both colleges where I have degrees. I got my bachelor's at Arizona State University and my master's at Northern Arizona University. And when Laura came to me wanting to go to the U of A, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to pay for you to go to my rival school. But again, it's her life, her choice, and it turned out to be a very good move. So the second thing is now she's getting a neurology degree. Part of the justification for sending her to the U of A and, more expenses having to have her live out of town was because they have a medical school. And then recently she's like, I don't know if I want to go to medical school. In fact, I don't think I'm going to go to medical school. I'm going to get a degree in something else, an advanced degree in something else, but I'm going to work first. And so that is somewhat upsetting because it's like, I was dreaming of my daughter becoming a doctor. But at the same time, that is her life, her choice, and it's more important that she do something that she wants and she is comfortable with than for her to do what I want her to do or what her dad wants her to do. So just having your kids or other people make them find their own path and not getting all worried and stressed because you can't control other people, but trying to control your kids or your wife or your husband is probably a huge producer of anxiety, especially as we age. Now, number 3, I'm going to say, is reliving regrets in your head and revisiting decisions that you made in the past and going over them, and especially when they didn't turn out how you wanted. The if only I had done this scenario. I know a lot of times I think, if only I hadn't gotten a business degree, if I had tried to go into vet school, or if only I hadn't married my first husband, or if only I hadn't done that. And then you start to think, oh, I'm just not capable of making decisions for my life, and you doubt yourself, and then you hesitate because you're going and reliving regrets that you made, mistakes that you made in the past. But realize this, if you didn't make a mistake, you wouldn't have learned. Like, every time you do something and you make a mistake, you've learned that wasn't a good choice for me, and then you don't do it again. So if you hadn't made the choice that didn't turn out correctly for you, instead you'd always be wondering, well, if I had done this, what would have happened? And so that living regrets and mulling them over in your head, that is actually a great way to cause anxiety. And what you need to do is just move on and to think, that didn't work out, but now I know better for next time, instead of mulling over your regrets. That will keep you having a more fulfilled life with less stress. Okay, that brings me to number 4, is a lot of people worry over things that they have no control over the outcome for. The lovely what if scenario. So I'm going to tell you that I encounter the what if scenario all of the time because I'm a real estate agent, and I will be having someone buy a house, and they're either looking at a house and it's a little bit older and they're like, oh my gosh, what if the heater goes bad? Or what if the roof goes bad? And it's like, again, you're putting a lot of thought and energy into something that probably isn't even going to happen. And there are ways to minimize the risk of that happening. Like, for instance, buying a house and you're worried something might happen because it's a 20 or 30-year-old house. Buy a home warranty, and then do your research to make sure you get the best home warranty company, because there's a lot of them that are crappy, and I actually have a review for one on this channel. But things like this, or you can have a home inspection. Again, you're never going to guarantee that the what if scenario in your brain is not going to work out or happen, but wasting energy worrying about stuff that's not likely to happen is very bad, and kind of like doesn't really do anything. Another thing I say is, don't watch the news. I almost never watch the news anymore. If something big happens in the world, someone's going to call and tell you, and you're going to find out. But when you watch the news and you see, oh my gosh, look what's happening in the world, look who's killing who, it's terribly depressing. Or when you watch politics and you're like, oh my gosh, what if this guy gets elected? Again, all you can do is go vote. So watching the news 24 hours a day, seeing what's going on, those are all things that you have none or little control over. So wasting energy thinking about what if scenarios doesn't make the outcome change, doesn't make you less likely to encounter problems, and basically uses up a lot of energy that you could put towards something more positive, like working towards a worthy goal. Now, I'm going to make one last comment over the what if. My father, who I love dearly, has been gone for almost 20 years now. And I don't know if this is because he used to be a cop, but he was always very safety conscious, very scared of, having an interaction and a fight with a person and, needing to defend himself. So he spent, and I'm not saying this is bad to become an excellent marksman or to research what's your best handgun, right? But, he was an avid gun collector, always had a gun, always went to the range, could probably shoot, be a sharpshooter. That's how freaking fantastic he was with the firearm, to keep himself in case this unlikely scenario would happen where someone would break into the house, or he'd get in a fight or in a shootout or anything. But what ended up happening is he died very young, in his early 60s, of a heart attack. So if he would have been putting all that energy into, like, maybe I should eat healthier foods or go to the doctor or exercise. Even though he did a lot of this stuff, maybe if he had focused his energy on something that was a more likely scenario, then what if, growing up in New York City in a slum in the 40s and 50s is probably what created that mindset that never left him, that everyone's out to get you. Don't trust anybody until they prove they can be trusted. That was the mindset that I was growing up with, and that can be very unhealthy when you're always thinking about how people are trying to rip you off. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't need to be aware that there are many scammers. But again, worrying, what if the air conditioning goes out? What if the neighbors are noisy? What if of our unlikely scenarios produces a ton of anxiety and is not going to do a whole lot to change the outcome, except for stuff that you can have control over. But again, most of the time when we're doing what ifs in our brain, it's stuff that we can't control over, causing tons of anxiety and producing no real benefit in our lives. So number 5, I'm going to say number 5 is something I'm not going to have a lot of advice for, but finances. I know a lot of people as they age, they get on the fixed income and they don't really have a lot of savings, and that kind of really causes a lot of anxiety and stress. What I'm going to tell you is I am not a financial expert. I feel like I've done okay with my life, but it's important before you get to 55 to get control of your finances, to buy a home, because the biggest thing I see is as a real estate agent, have a lot of people come to me and they're in their 60s and they're like, I only have approval from VA for $250,000. Can you help me buy a house? And I'm like, oh, I really can't, because in northern Arizona for $250,000 you cannot find anything that's financeable. You'll have like a condemned mobile home, or, I mean, not that you can't ever, but I'm saying in the markets that I deal with, and I feel very bad that I can't help this person, but I just can't if your finances aren't in order, and I can understand that that causes people lots of loss of stress. So my advice on how to deal with that is to go on YouTube and find some of the financial advice channels and to get your finances in order before, we're old and it's too late. So that's it. That's my 5 most common producers of anxiety. This just came from my own life. I didn't even do any research for that. So I hope this is helpful to you. If you like the video, again, my name's Dawn Dickinson. I post videos every single week that's hopefully helpful for us baby boomers to baby boomers unite. And if you like the video, please hit the subscribe button, the thumbs up button, and I hope to see you back here next week.